on Elsons at Stanwick Lakes. I'm with this beautiful man who's got better hair than me.
Absolutely.
And we're going to be looking at solid PVA bag fishing. Loz has used it to devastating effect already with this absolute stunning 32 pounder. Top angling, mate.
Thanks, mate. I really appreciate it. Hopefully there's a few more to come.
We're going to punish you, get loads of information about how you do it, what you use in your bags, how you fish them effectively, and hopefully you can show us a few more of these.
Fingers crossed, mate.
Good man. Let's get him back. What a beauty. Loz, solid bags.
Yep.
I'm going to say it's the only thing you cast out, isn't it, mate?
Off, right, cut that. It's brilliant.
Loz, solid bags, mate.
Yep.
Now, I know you're pretty devastating in terms of using them. I can't say I've used them that much in recent times, mate. Talk to me about why you favour them, why you like fishing with them, and sort of, they are very versatile, aren't they, as we've seen here from this fishing that we're doing?
I think you've hit the nail on the head how versatile they are. To be honest with you, back in the day, I wasn't a big lover of them. I didn't really believe in the hype around them that much. Thought you could get away with a PVA stick or a little meshy bag and do the same job.
Yeah.
Turns out 4 years ago when I started using them, I couldn't have been further from the truth. And like you mean by versatility, like you can use them singles on their own, whether that be in winter or little edge spots in the summer, or casting at showing fish. You can use them over a spread of boilies. I've used them over a spod mix. Like, if I could pin down and use one tactic everywhere, it would be them, because you've got zero tangles. 9 times out of 10 you're presented, and you've always got a little parcel of bait around your bait, plus using inline lead. And for me, an inline lead is about as good as you're going to get in terms of hooking properties with an effective rig and a sharp hook. So yeah, for me, I would use them all the time. Obviously, in certain situations you can't, whether that's nuisance fish or casting at range or whatever be it. But for me, if I can use them, certainly on these sort of day ticket lakes where they've been reared on pellets, and you've got no nuisance fish, I don't think personally you can beat them.
No, I mean, they are devastating. You've already caught one, as we've seen in this intro, mate. But this type of fishing that we're doing now, they are particularly effective because we're not just fishing for numbers of bites. We're on Elsons. There's a really good head of big carp here, isn't there?
Yeah, there is.
And we are fishing tight, if you like, to a far bank feature. Why would you fish that solid bag presentation ahead of maybe another rig choice? Why have you gone in with them, apart from the fact that I've told you to because we're filming this?
A few reasons really. Number one, usually when you're margin fishing, it's clear, or you've got clear spots. There is some sort of element of that. So again, when I turned up here, I knew the fish were here, I could see them. I didn't really want to be crashing leads on them, and also the snags we're fishing too. Like, to get a lead there or to get a bag there and punch it in there, and to find that spot consistently at that range, you're never going to do it. I don't care who you are, you're not doing it. So I want to be able to put a bag out there first time, lower it down, with the chances in my favour that it is presented when that solid bag opens up. That hook link's there, it's not tangled, you've got all that nice little pile of bait, and it would be sort of presented. Plus, I didn't want to put too much bait out there. Like we've mentioned, it is scorchio.
Yeah.
Like, summer's arrived, and I wanted that small little parcel of food that when they come across it and swim above it, maximum sort of attraction there with very little food items to fill them up. Like, I wouldn't say it's a one bite tactic because solid bags aren't, but certainly within 3 or 4 mouthfuls, my hook bait's getting taken.
Yeah.
So it kind of lended itself to this sort of fishing, and like we've already mentioned, with the lead setup and the rig that I use, touch wood, 9 times out of 10 when that bobbin goes, it's going to come in the net. So yeah, that's why I'm using it, mate.
Well, Matt, I look forward to it. We're going to tap into sort of the rig element, the sort of loading of the bag, every single last little thing, and get as much out of you in terms of tips for the viewers with regards to solid bag fishing, mate. But you've already proved how devastating it is in pretty tricky conditions on a pretty tricky lake as well, mate.
This ain't your typical easy sort of run-of-the-mill dating. It's crystal clear. It's choked with weed. These fish are old as the hills, have been in here a long, long time. They've seen everything. And yeah, I can't say I've only fished it a couple of times before and I haven't been for a few years. So to come and get one of the A-team straight away within an hour is, you know, can't ask for more than that. Right? Hopefully there's a couple more to follow in the next couple of days, but if not, either way, I'm really happy. Yeah,
nice stuff, mate. Well, I'm going to let you crack on, mate. I'm going to go and get sorted and set up somewhere, mate, and we will no doubt catch up with you talking about the intricacies of a rig or your bait or something, mate. No secrets here. We're going to make sure it's on camera.
You're bleeding me dry.
Oh, yeah, mate.
Sound.
Nice one, mate.
Sweet. Okay, so just before I get this rig back out there, I thought I'd talk you through it because it has changed over the years, and I've finally settled on a rig that I don't think I can beat. Basically, I've caught hundreds and hundreds of carp on it now. It very, very rarely lets me down, and it's the same sort of components that I use every single time. So what I've got, to talk you through this end first, is I've got a short section of rock bottom tungsten tubing. The reason I use the tubing is a lot of the day jigs I go to these days stipulate they must use them. And the thing is, I don't want to be breaking my rods down because I'm going somewhere different every single week. I want something on there that's reliable, that I can use basically anywhere. What I've got then, I've got that down to a little tail rubber, which is pushed onto the insert of a 3-ounce inline lead. And in the bottom of that 3-ounce inline lead, I've got a size 8 flexi ring swivel. And then the hook link itself is probably a bit longer than what you'd normally see. So I've got around 5.5 inches of the 25-pound silk flex braid, and that's uncoated. So it's nice and supple, nice and soft. I've just done an overhand loop there, figure of 8 loop, just so I can quick change my hook links on and off when I need to. And then down at the business end, I've got a size 4 apex curve hook on there, and I've got one of the RidgeMonkey's small curve kickers that just sort of elevates and extends the shank of the hook, opens the gape up a little bit more, and it really does nail them. Now, the rig itself is set up slip D style. Again, like I mentioned, I've tried and tested rigs over the years with this, and no end of times I woke up in the morning, single bleep, or the bobbin had dropped back, the lead was off when I was fishing drop off, and I've been done. But with this, I'm not saying it doesn't get done, of course it does, every rig does, but very rarely get that happen these days. And then just to finish it off, I've got a tiny little hook bait on there, mounted onto a mini hook ring swivel. So I've got a Trent Baits freshwater shrimp, just a dumbbell, that's the bottom bait. Trim the top off and then put one of the washed out pink dams and cream pop-ups on top of it. Again, you want your hook bait nice and small inside the bag. Because the contents of your bag is going to be relatively small, you want to match the size of your hook bait to that as well, otherwise it'll stand out like a sore thumb. Now, it is worth mentioning on the lead side of things, I have now got this set to drop off now. The reason I also use this setup is it basically one fits all. So I've got this set up so that if I obviously pull at that end, fish pulls at that end, the lead comes off and is ejected. Now, all I do with that is I tie my main line to the opposite end of the swivel to what you would do if you wanted to keep it on. So I don't change any components, I'm not chopping and changing between anything. If I wanted to keep my lead on at any point, I just snip my line, thread my inline lead on, and then tie my main line to the right end of the swivel. So it's very, very versatile, quickly change between the two. And the reason I'm dropping it here, as I've already mentioned, there's a lot of snags over there. Don't know what I'm dropping on, I'm fishing locked up. I just want that lead out of the way. If it gives me more of a chance to land the fish, then that's all that matters. So yeah, that's the rig. So for now, I'm gonna get it back in the lake. But before I do, I'm gonna talk you through exactly how I tie a slip D solid bag rig. There's a few things that I do differently and a few things that I really do think make a massive difference. Okay, so to tie the slip D rig, what I'm going to do first is take a short section of the 25-pound silk flex. And the reason I'm using this is it's got no coating on it, and that's really, really important when it's going inside a solid bag. So once I've taken a length, make sure you give yourself plenty to work with. Don't leave it too short, because by the end of it, you won't have enough material to construct and finish a rig the length you want. So give yourself plenty to work with. And the first thing I'm going to do is fold the braid back on itself. And then in turn, that will give me a nice little loop at the end. Next up, I'm going to take a mini hook ring swivel. That's obviously what my bait's going to mount to. And what I'm going to do, the big ring on the mini hook bait swivel, I'm going to put that over the top of the loop. Like so. So basically, I'm trapping and keeping hold of those two materials, but the swivel can run freely up and down. And then keeping hold of your loop, and I'm going to take a size 4 apex curve, which is my favourite pattern of hook. Super, super sharp these, no need for sharpening. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that loop of braid over the top of the eye of the hook and then basically trap it opposite the barb. That's really important, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. I'm going to slide the swivel down and then simply trap the braid against the eye of the hook, and then that has created the sort of slip D effect. And then before I go any further, I'm just going to make sure that that D starts opposite the barb. Like I said, that's really, really important. You don't want it any further around the shank towards the bend of the hook, because that's when you will start getting dodgy hook holds. What you'll find is, if you put a hook bait on there and lift your hook bait up off the top of your tackle box, you want that hook to drop prime in position to catch the bottom lip every time. The further round you go, the hook can sort of start veering off to the left or the right, which means that your hook holds are going to sort of vary with it. So always opposite the barb, trap it, and you should be left with two little bits of braid. This one here, the longer one, is going to be a rig, and you should just have a little tag end that we're going to get rid of at some point. But first of all, I'm going to put both through the back of the eye of the hook. So I'm going to go through with the tag end, just wet that braid through with your rig, so it should end up looking something like that. And then I'm just going to form a simple knotless knot. I'm just going to go down 7 times, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, a couple of times back over the top, and then I'm just going to move that last tag end out of the way again and go through the back of the eye on the hook one more last time and pull it down nice and tight to create your knotless knot. A little bit of saliva, and with this you want to make sure you take your time and make sure that D section is running smoothly down the back of the hook. So you can see it's opposite the barb, that's giving me the slip D effect. And then with this tag end, I'm just going to trim it off. Don't cut through your hook link material, I've done it 1,000 times before myself. Now that rig there would be absolutely fine on its own to use, really effective, but we're going to take this one step further, and I'm going to get one of our small curve kickers. These just complement the curves really well. I mean, to be fair, I've used them with beak points as well, and you know, had the same amount of success, but I really do like them with curves. So I'm going to take my hook link and I'm going to go through the bottom of the kicker, pull it down, and then carefully push that kicker over the knotless knot. I just like to cover the knotless knot. It's just a bit of an OCD thing really. And then again, make sure that slip D is running down the back, and make sure your curve kicker is facing inwards so it reacts exactly how you want it to every time turning over. And then with the length of the rig, you'll see people use 3-inch rigs, even 2.5-inch rigs before, but I've gone the other way and gone to 5.5 inches, and yeah, the success rate in terms of hook holds went through the roof, and again, something that they don't see very often. So once you've got your desired length, again, I'm going to make a loop at this end. Now this doesn't have to be small and neat or anything like that, because we're going to use a loop-to-loop system when you need to change your rigs. So I'm going to make a loop, and all I'm going to do that again, fold it under, and I'm going to twist that loop and pinch, and then I'm going to take a little splicing needle. It's always easy with a little splicing needle, just makes the whole job straightforward. Go through, pull your loop and pull it back through, and then you'll see that that's created almost like a number 8, which is why it's called a figure of 8. Pull it down, moisten it, get yourself a little multi-tool, make sure that's bedded down really, really tight, and then I'm just going to trim off that tag end. Now that is effectively the finished rig presentation, but again, we are going to take this one step further again. So I'm going to take some rock bottom tungsten putty, but what I'm going to do with it is, instead of wrapping it around my hook link, in which if I just kept that around there and wrapped it around it, if you imagine when you're making your bag and you're compressing and compacting it, pellets or whatever you're using could get trapped in it, in amongst the putty. So what I like to do is wrap it around it as if you were going to do that to start with. And it is always easier with this if you've got 2 ends that are tight. Obviously it's a little bit fiddly trying to show you how to do this, but I'm going to pinch it and squeeze it tight, and then rub the putty up and down the hook link, so that, and then remove it so it's not staying on there. But now what you'll find is, if you look at that braid, the putty is almost weaved into the braid, which means now it's going to be nailed to the deck every time. If you imagine that braid was dry, you put it inside a bag, you cast it out there, the first thing that braid wants to do is lift because the water attacks it because it's dry. Whereas now, It's going to be pinned down to the deck, out of the way of the carp. So that is my finished Slip D solid bag rig. When it comes to tying the solid bag, the first thing I want you to remember is there's no right or wrong way to do this. So there's 2 or 3 ways you can do it, whether that your lead be at the bottom of the bag, at the top of the bag, your lead at the back of the bag with your hook bait on top. The reality is there's no right or wrong way. All the ways will work. The way that I do it is probably for simplicity, for how quick it is, and although it may look a little bit, wow, does he really just do that? But it really does work. And the minute I start getting funny hook holds or I feel like it's affecting me, then maybe I'll look at it. But for the past 4 years, it's never really bothered me. I know that my hook bait's there, the Slip D isn't tangled, the rig isn't tangled, the lead's safely away from it, and I can cast it where I need to cast it. Then that is the main thing. So first things first, I always take my rig and drop it in some stick mix. Just give it a nice little shake. That's just going to take any remaining moisture away from the lead. And I'm going to take my bag now. This is a small. I do advocate smalls or extra smalls. You wouldn't believe how much bait's actually in this bag. So when people say it's a mouthful of bait, it really isn't. There's at least 3 to 4 mouthfuls of bait in this, and that's if they get to your hook bait last. So there's a lot more than a mouthful. You don't need to fill them up all the way. I normally fill them up sort of 3/4, tie it off, and then trim it with a pair of scissors. So once you're happy, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of the stick mix to start with to line the bottom of the bag. Make sure it gets in the corners, just like so. Now, that serves a couple of important purposes. Number one, when you put your rig in, if there is any remaining moisture, it's just going to absorb it and stop it melting the bag. Number two, because that's a dry mix, when that bag melts underwater, you'll have all those dry particles rising through the water column, and sometimes it can actually catch the carp's eye, draw them down, and you can get quick bites from it. So the third reason for it is when I tuck and push my corners in later on to finish the bag, you can actually really push those corners in and get rid of all the air, whereas the pellets can sometimes get in the way, be a bit fiddly, and you can't really push the corners in so much. So that's the first thing I do. And then take my rig, one last look, make sure that the D's straight, everything's sorted, lower my rig in, lower the lead in, drop. So that's the first thing I do. So there's no worrying about which corner it's in or anything like that. What you've got to remember is, with a neutrally buoyant hook bait, whether that's a wafter or a little bottom bait top with a little tipper like here, that hook bait will always find its way to the top. And even when it's out there and melted, the minute you've got nuisance fish or carp or whatever swim over the top of it, disperses the bag, your hook bait's left there anyway. So it will always find its place where it wants to be, regardless of whether you spend 20 minutes making it look pretty or you just put it in there. So I'm going to take a little bit of pellet now, not a lot, a little bit, and then I'm just going to lift my lead out and tuck it down, maybe just a little bit more in there. Take your lead out and just use your lead just to tap that down. So now what I've done is created separation between the hook bait and the lead itself. Now, if it was in the winter or if I was going to use like PVA friendly particle or maggots or casters or something, it's at this point now where I'd be putting them so that I know that my hook bait is protected between a layer of ground bait and a layer of pellets, which means that nothing's going to mask the hook. So if I was doing that, it'd be at this point. And then I'm just going to continue to fill that bag up sort of 3/4 of the way. Now the last thing that's probably the most important to me is making sure that that lead is dead center of that bag. If it's not in dead center of that bag when you cast it, you can find that it could wobble in flight. So always make sure before you start tying it that it's dead center. Look where your tubing's come in. Once you're happy, pinch at the top, and then I'm just going to twist. I'm out some twisting. I'm just making sure that I don't pull that tail rubber off, because if you pull the tail rubber off, it can be an absolute nightmare. Once you're happy, you've got a few twists on there, so I'm sure you can see that's getting compact already. Now at this point, you can nick and stick solid bags, but you cannot get them nowhere near as tight as if you use tape. Tape is God and it's a way forward. Now it can be a little bit more tricky and difficult, like all fingers and thumbs. The easiest way that I've found to do this is once you've got that and you've twisted your bag, lift your bag upwards, because then when I wrap the tape around, it's easier for the tape to go around from here than it would be trying to wrap it around your hand there. So that might make it a little bit easier for you. Just going to take some of our dispersed tape, and again, give myself plenty to work with, and then I'm going to go around, and each revolution is going to go tighter and tighter on the bag, which means I'm compressing it, and again, making it more aerodynamic. So a couple of very complicated overhand knots, trim off those tag ends. So now you can see that bag is really starting to sort of take shape. What I'm going to do is carefully, because I have cut through this no end of time when I've been rushing, trim off any of that excess PVA that you don't want. Now, some bags obviously have a seam, some don't. If you have got the seam, what I like to do is obviously lick and stick that down. Now, again, some people like to pierce the bag, let the air in. What I like to do is just nip off those corners. And what that's going to do is, when I hold the bag tight there and I force the corner in, you'll see that some of the ground bait, some of the pellet or whatever, but more importantly, the remaining bit of air is going to shoot out of that corner as well. And when I do this, PVA, you can really mould it. So I'm squeezing that bag quite tight. Once I'm happy, you can see that's what I meant by the ground bait. Look how much PVA I've got there away from ground bait now. And that's why I prefer to use it than pellet. Again, lick, pull it over and hold. And again, just repeat the same process with this corner. Lick, stick and hold. And that is the finished presentation. Really aerodynamic, no hassle, no fuss, and once you have done a few, it really does become like clockwork. So easy to tie, and yeah, that will cast a very long way. If you want to take this one step further, you could obviously inject liquids into this. So I always carry some blunt syringes with me, hemp oil, salmon oil, that sort of thing. And then in the winter, or if there's a bit of dew in the air and it was cold or damp, what I would do with this is I would double skin it. So the bag how it is, I tie it the exact same. I get another solid bag. I'd cut down the corners, make little indents in them, really use my thumbs to open the bag up and slide this bag inside the second skin, and then just repeat the same process. So tie it off again, snip it, snip your ends tight in, so then you've got a double skin. And if it really was chucking it down with rain and you wanted those extra few seconds so that it didn't melt, once you've double skinned it, get some oil or PVA friendly liquid, whatever it is, rub it all around the bag, and then simply drop your bag in your stick mix, give it a good old shake, and then what you would find is you've got a layer of ground bait or stick mix, layer of liquids, and a double skin, and that will just give you those extra few seconds. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get this in the boat, get this little baby out in the lake, and hopefully it'll do me another lovely Elsons carp.
Well, Loz, we are in a little bit of serenity, but I reckon probably, hopefully, with a bit of luck, a bit of a bite time window, because it's been blistering hot all day, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been a nightmare. I haven't got sunstroke today. It's been sat there sweating. Yeah, it looks good now though, doesn't it? I think we've got a couple of hours now. I think night time will be quiet, and then we've got a 3-4 hour window in the morning, but I think we've got blistering heat tomorrow as well, haven't we? So
we have. Tomorrow is set to be an absolute scorcher. To be fair, solid bag feature in that weather. You're not expecting to pick up anything on the deck, even though we've been fishing pretty much in the shallowest water we can possibly find with the bags. You've done really well to catch that mega 30 pounder. And as you say, mate, now and in the morning's a chance, hopefully, to put another fish on the bank. But even if you didn't, mate, it's an absolute result on it. It's a tricky lake, isn't it?
It's not your typical day ticket lake by any stretch, but obviously been told now that fish we had this morning is one of the proper old ones. Fish called Spike, usually does 38 pound before spawning, but obviously they've gone twice, haven't they? So
yep.
Completely empty, but yeah, no, right, either way, mate, like I'm buzzing with that. Like, it's a mega result considering like you said, the conditions we've got. catching anything from anywhere in those conditions this time of year, it's you know, I'm happy with it. So fingers crossed for one more. Always greed is good, isn't it, at the end of the day? So.
Mate, and also, as with bags, mate, they're out there, there's a bit of bait with them and they're fishing, mate. So fingers crossed, yeah, we can nick another one, mate. Sure we can.
Give it, well, see out bite time.
Yeah.
8, 9, 10 o'clock, hit that point and then, yeah, make a move from there.
Nice one, mate. Well, I'm going to retire, mate, to the pit. I'm going to make sure I don't get bitten to death by mozzies and not you. And I will see you, if not through the night, in the morning.
Yeah, you will do, mate. Good luck, mate.
Nice one, mate, and you. That had to go, didn't it? Get it.
I broke my chocolate ankles. Well, this is the result of placing those solid bags yesterday afternoon. We'd got one, the pressure was on last morning. You know, we only had 24 hours on not the easiest lake in the world, in ridiculous conditions really. You know, we'd probably, in an ideal world, have been floater fishing at some point, but we got the job done in the end. A couple of fish, one of the A team, and this lovely common this morning.
Here he is,
mate.
on cue, mate. The postman. He always delivers, mate, a corker. And in this weather, these conditions on this lake, incredible. Thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you've seen and picked up a load of tips at the man who is the best in the business, I reckon, at fishing solid bags. He's certainly proved it in this feature. And we will see you all again soon.
Cheers.
Well done, mate.
Top, mate. That'll do.